Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our session webinar today. Today, we're going to be going through risk and performance. I've got Karen Stanton. You may know her. She's our success manager, customer success manager, and we've also got is it Bruna? No, sorry, Sabrina from our marketing team. So let's get cracking. So today's agenda, if I just move to the agenda slide, is to go through the risk and performance, capability within iValua, and also to look at the feature enhancements that are coming our way. The features I'm going to show today are mainly in the latest version of the product. So we can always discuss if you're interested in any of the ones that I'm going to show. We can always look at whether they are available in your version or not. In terms of the agenda, we'll cover the risk center as well as the scorecard that we have within iValua. For every supplier, you have like a scorecard for risk. We'll also look at how we can actually monitor risk, ongoing monitoring of the risk in the system, and what are the features available we can use to monitor that risk. We'll also look at risk questionnaires, which is another way of actually assessing risk within the system. And we'll also look at how we can do recurring risk assessment. So, ongoing risk assessment, how we can do this for different tiers of suppliers. We can also look at that. As well as we'll look at risk connectors. So there are many third-party risk providers out there, which many of our customers currently use. We can see how we can actually connect to those risk connectors within iValua, and how can that come to life within iValua? How can we utilize that integration? And then lastly, we'll also see how we can actually use the EVA AI chat box that iValua has to actually maybe look at some risk indicators from the internet, how it can help us look at that as well. So that's the risk agenda. Then we'll also cover Performance Center, which is similar to risk, but it's just different side of the coin, how well the suppliers are doing in terms of their performance. We'll look at the Performance Center as well as the scorecard against the performance, supply performance scorecard. Again, questionnaires, it's the same logic as risk. So we'll look at the performance questionnaire as well as how we can actually do recurring performance evaluations within the system, how we can automate that in the system, what options we have available. We'll also look at risk and performance against contract. So, not only you can actually assess risk against a supply, you may want to actually do risk and performance evaluation against a particular contract that you may have with a supplier. And then lastly, we will cover any future enhancements within the product that is coming our way, which can actually help us, especially the scoring calculation, as well as ability to raise a questionnaire against different objects. So in terms of performance, we'll look at recurring performance and any future enhancement, like I said. So let's have a look at those things. Okay. So in terms of the risk and performance, they do appear on different home pages. So you can see that some of the risk KPIs can come up on the buyer page, can come up on the risk performance page. You can see that this is an example where you can see the last risk score and the performance score against a particular contract. Okay. And you can look at this KPI, you can see if you look at a contract which is not performing very well in terms of the performance and the risk is high, then it actually looks at the system puts it into this far left, bottom left corner, which is to say you need to start replacing this supply because they're not doing very well. And there are KPIs, drillable KPIs these are. So you can look at the supplier, you can start to collaborate with them. You can look at the scorecard behind that. So all of these are KPI driven. You can look at that. But what we also have is for risk managers, we also have what we call is the risk center. So the risk center is where, as a risk manager, you can look at it on a an overview page where you can actually look at it holistically, where we are with the different suppliers that they are managing. Yeah. Now, in terms of their risk, so if we look at this one, we already looked at initially, but if you look at on the far right top corner, the initial risk assessment required. Now, this is generally what happens is as you're onboarding new suppliers, the system will actually trigger risk assessments automatically based on certain criteria. So, for example, if you look at this one, it's telling me that it needs a risk scorecard created, meaning that we haven't done any risk assessment for this new supplier. Okay, although it's an active supplier, we haven't done any risk assessment for this. This supplier is only in the registration stage, so you might want to actually look at, doing risk assessment. Okay, so all of these are filled in when somebody needs risk assessment. In terms of ongoing risk assessment, iValua will basically can actually look at certain fields as well as third-party risk providers, yeah, and it can actually flag up any alerts. So, for example, this supply here is actually put onto a sanction list, yeah. Because it's put onto a sanction list, I need to do the risk assessment again, or at least review their risk. And then what you can do, you can create a risk assessment and see how the score is in terms of that. And then you can make a decision whether to actually keep them active or disable them or have something in place to actually improve the situation. Okay. If you do want the supplier to actually improve the situation, then you can also have a control plan or a mitigation plan, we call it. Sometimes people call it a mitigation plan or improvement plan. You can have that in place with them. So you can see that on this dashboard is telling me, okay, there are different suppliers who have different, mitigation plans or collaboration plan with them. Okay, and what this means is that you have something in place with them to actually work with. Okay. You can also see other things, how many evaluations we've done versus how many are in progress. All of that is in there as well as other KPIs like any issues. So we can use, together with the risk and performance module, we can also use the exceptions or the issue management module as well, which is obviously is also a risk. If you think about it, if you have many risks, that means against a particular supplier, that means the supplier is not doing very well probably, and that's why you have so many issues with them. Okay. Also, how many active plan, which is the same thing as the control plan. And if there are any missing documentation, that might be a risk as well to your organization. So you can see on the risk center, on a high level, it shows you all of that. Now, we also have what we call is a performance center, but I'll go into the risk in a minute as well, but I just want to show you the performance very quickly. Similar to the risk center, we have a performance center, and this is where you can actually see how well the supplier is doing in terms of their performance, any performance scorecard that you need to be looking at. So, for example, this supplier is doing average. If I look at this, it will drill into the supply, or the supply performance scorecard that we have. Okay. Again, similar to risk mitigation plan, you can also have improvement plans if they're not doing very well, and you can have a plan in place with them to actually work and improve that situation as well. And there are other KPIs in terms of comparison, as well as campaigns are running. So campaigns are like recurring, improvement, recurring assessments basically in the system. And I'll show you in a minute how we can use that as well. So if I go back to the risk just very quickly and see how we can. Yeah.
Sorry, Zishan, can I just interrupt you just because it might go into your flow? We've had a question about are you going to be able to include something about supplier segmentation and this impact on risk and performance? If you, I don't know if you want to do it now or do it at the end. I just wanted to let you know the question was out there.
No, that's a good question. I didn't have it in mind, but I will show that, Stuart. I saw your messages now. Yeah, no worries. So just to touch base very quickly on the segmentation is that iValua has a segmentation. It's not really a module. It's more of a feature, okay, which can be used to actually auto segment your suppliers as well. So not only you start with the segmentation, but you can also automatically segment the suppliers. And I'll show you at the end when we have time how we can do this. Now, just coming back to the risk, there are a number of ways we can assess the risk here. If I open up one supplier record, if I go to my most favorite supplier, Dell, and look at the scorecard, okay? Now, the scorecard can be made up of different sources, yeah? So one of the sources we talked about is third-party risk providers. So if I look at external sources, I've got many, in the list, so I've got 2, but I can link to any other third-party tools like, DNB, there are Integrity Index, there are many others. And at the end of the session, I will cover all of the pre-built connectors, which are either iValua have created or we as TSM have created in already, which you can actually, pick and choose, and we can install it and we can configure it for you out of the box. They're pre-built, and then we can customize it based on your requirements as well. So some of the information here could come directly from there. So if you look at this one, this is coming directly from Awardis, this information. Okay, so there's a score coming through. And then if you look at this is the score coming through from Awardis. This one, if you look at this one, this is looking at a particular documentation, and because that particular documentation has not been provided, the score is high. This particular one, if you look at it, is looking at a particular field which is probably coming from third-party tool, okay, and it's telling us that because they happen to not on the sanction list, they are actually a low risk to organization. Another example could be the address of the supply. So if a supply happens to be in a high-risk country, and by the way, you create your own risk. Every customer is different to how they assess their risk. And then the country risk could be specific to whatever you think that country risk is. Yeah. So based on the information we have, it is a medium risk to us for the supplier, the country they are in. So you can see some of this information can come through from there, but as well as that, it can also come through from a questionnaire. A questionnaire could be an evaluation or a risk type questionnaire, which is a scoring type questionnaire. And that questionnaire can be sent to various different stakeholders. So if I look at one example here, so let's say that there is a recurring risk assessment questionnaire, and you have different sections and subsection, but you can see that every question has a score and every section has a score as well. Okay, and that builds up and will come up with an overall score here, as well as it will actually feed into that scorecard that we have. So that scorecard, some of these elements could be coming through from a particular last risk assessment that you have done. Okay, so I hope some of these sources we've understood how we can actually bring them, as well as looking at the supply risk. We can also look at any linked supply, meaning in the hierarchy, you can have a hierarchy of suppliers where you have a master supplier and a child supplier, and you can also have a sub-tier. If you have a sub-tier network, you mean like you have a contractor, subcontractors, then we can also look at that as well. Okay. Now, let's have a look at a questionnaire in a bit more detail, because I want to show you the functionality in that scoring questionnaire that we can use. So if we look at supply risk questionnaire, which we looked at supply risk assessment, what we can do is if I look at the questionnaire, every section can be actually defined a weightage. Yeah. So if I look at this option here, reporting setup, I can define, okay, this section has a weightage of this, which is 50% of the whole questionnaire. This subsection has a 17%. So you can make that up and configure that, and based on that, that questionnaire can be calculated. And in future, iValua are going to actually allow us to actually change this calculation behind that, because most of you, if you've used a questionnaire, you'll know that questionnaire is weighted average formula, but it can be tailored in future. What I've been told by iValua, that you can then have your own calculation on that as well. Okay, so let's just go back to our risk center again now. Now, actually, before I go into risk center, you can also automate these questions. So the way we've done this risk assessment, it could be that tier one suppliers, or based on the segmentation, like you said, Stuart, it could be your tier one suppliers has to be reassessed every 6 months. For tier two supply, it could be that every 12 months you have to risk assess them, and you can define the criteria as how it's going to trigger that. And what the system will do is it will automatically create this risk assessment campaign. So if I look at one of the campaigns, it will automatically trigger that campaign, and it will send it to those suppliers based on the segmentation. It will automatically send that questionnaire out to them. They will see that, and we'll know who to send it to based on the suppliers. We will send that. And as a campaign manager, then you can actually review the campaign, whether somebody submitted the evaluation from your internal users. Have you approved that evaluation that they've submitted or assessment? Is it in progress? And you can also send them reminder. The system automatically sends the reminder, but you can also send them a nudge if you want to. And once the campaign is finished, you can also look at the score for the campaign and different criteria that how you look at the risk against suppliers. We'll tell you that as well. And then at the end, you can also create, the scorecard as well off the back of that, if needed. Okay. So let's look at our agenda very quickly where we are.
See, Shan, while you're just having a slight break, there was a question from AJ about if risks raised against each contract, do they get rolled up to a supplier level, or are they, maybe you can address that one. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So if we look at the supplier record again, I'm going back. When we look at the risk, that score that you have against the contract is also inherent here. With there should be there you go, this one. So it is also looking at the risk against the contract that you have. So the supplier overall risk score is also looking at the contract risk as well. Now, this is just an example. It's looking at that. If you have multiple contracts, then it will actually look at that as well. Hope I've answered the question. It does trickle through into the supply overall risk as well. Yes, that's correct. Now, we can also use Gen AI to answer a few questions. I mean, always be cautious about what you're asking, obviously, because it just looks at the internet. So I could ask things like, okay, do you know of any adverse media events for Delink recently? Okay. And then it'll go out and troll through web scraping it does, and it basically goes and finds out whether there are any adverse media events against this supply. So looks like there wasn't anything in this year for Dell. Okay, I'm sure if you ask for other suppliers, it will come up with that. But then you can use the information. You can even tell it. You can say. You can also tell it to actually give us references. Okay. And it will come back with references to where it's actually found that information. So I could say, were there any events in the past 10 years, maybe? And see, and I'll try and find if I can find anything. And then I can also tell it to tell me if you can give me your references, where did you find this information? So there you go. So now it's telling me, okay, in 2021 we had this incident, in 2017 we had that incident. So I can say, can you please give me the exact references? And then it can even give you what we call is the link to the source, hopefully. There you go. So it's actually giving me the links as well in there where you can actually find these references. Okay. And there are other use cases you can use. So you can see that this was a financial report. I can actually click on it. It will take me directly to the source that it's actually used. Okay. In terms of evaluations, okay, normally we do not have third-party sources, but for the risk, we do have risk third parties. One of the standard ones is DNB that we can connect to. There's BVD as well. I think they're called Moody's now. But we can connect to, if you are using an existing third-party provider, we can use that. Now, in terms of when we connect to these third-party tools, we can also monitor from that third-party tool. So if you look at this on the right side, you see there's a risk identified. Yeah. So if I maybe click on that, it will take me to the risk that I've been, there is identified. So not only it actually connects and brings back some of the data, it also is used to actually do the monitoring. Now, the other thing we can also do in the system is we can automatically create this risk score. I mean, normally what happens is you have to actually click on this button to manually run this risk scorecard. Yeah. So it doesn't automatically update as such. You have to click on this and it will show you the up-to-date risk score. Now, in the past, for some clients, we have actually automated this process, meaning that every night it used to actually update the risk score. But to be honest, you don't have to do this because we need to identify the triggers to when we should actually update the scorecard. So what iValua have now done in version 180 onward is that as opposed to refreshing the scorecard every day, which will just clutter the whole, your report here on the right, which shows you the trend, okay, of the score changing. We only look for the changes and then trigger the scorecard. Okay, so what that means is that you could tell me, okay, Zishan, if my sanction field, if anything changes on that field, only then trigger a scorecard and send it to me, okay, for review. So what it will do is, if let's say this supplier was put on a sanction list, it will create a scorecard and it will actually put it here for me as an alert. You'll get an email as well, but you'll be able to see the alert, and then you can look at that scorecard, okay, that the system has created, okay, and see why the impact has changed, okay. So this will save a lot of time in terms of trolley through and looking at what has changed from day to day. You don't have to do this. The system will only update the score if there is that change identified. Otherwise, it will be the same score going forward. Okay. Now, in terms of automating questionnaire, I just wanted to mention one other thing, is that if I just go to the questionnaire template, in terms of when you create the questionnaire template and you need to trigger, out of the box, we have two things, so you can say, send the questionnaire out to suppliers who've not had a campaign in recently. Yeah. So what this means is that if a supplier has not had a campaign done within this year, then it will send it to them. Otherwise, it will not send it to them. Sometimes you have to come up with your own criteria, okay, to say who it should send it to. What we can do is we can work with the customers and we can create that SQL query in the background. So you might say, Zishan, I only want to actually send the questionnaire out to tier 1 suppliers. It's nothing to do with the spend, or it's nothing to do with whether they received it last time within the 6 months or not. It's every other 6 months, I need to send it to tier one supply. So for that, we can write a SQL query and give you another selection, which you can then use to actually create your own automation. And the automation can be period based, meaning that it can be monthly, yearly, or daily, or it can be an event based as well. When we select event based, then we have to define that event, okay, in the criteria basically, okay, and then we can help you actually create that event because we can do that for you, and then based on that event could be like somebody put on a sanction list, then we need to send them a questionnaire to fill in, okay. So all of those can be done within the system as well. Now, just coming back to the question on segmentation, if I just go out to my supply record again. And if we look at the information here, we have a field called typology. Now, typology is another word for segmentation. Many people call it segmentation. Some people call it typology. A, B, C, whatever your segmentation is. Some people have a strategic, type of categorization. Some people just have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Now, whatever the categorization is, normally we would put it into this field, so you have that. And then you can then define, so this will be the segmentation day 1 for the supply, but that segmentation needs to be reevaluated, every couple of months or every year, whatever the criteria is. Most people will have an evaluation of that segmentation, and that segmentation might change. It might change during the course of the year. It could be based on a spend level. It could be based on other criteria. What iValua can do is we have a feature what we call is tags. If I could just show you one here. Here you go. So we've got a feature called tags. Tags can be used to actually segment supplies. Yeah. So the way it works is we define a SQL statement behind a tag, and we say, okay, tell me what the criteria is. Is it based on values, spend, whatever the criteria is? Look for that, and then automatically every day update the segmentation based on that criteria. Okay, so it could be that if the value has changed, we spend more than $1 million, and that makes them a strategic supplier, then the system can automatically mark it as a strategic supply and send an email out to somebody to say, by the way, this supply has actually changed its segmentation basically because of the rules that we've defined. Or some people, what they do is they do it every 6 months. They just run it every 6 months and then recategorize the supplies. So does that answer your question, Stuart? Or we can do automatic segmentation, or you can just do it manually as well. Hope I've answered your question.
I can see typing going on, Zishan, so there might be an answer coming.
I think we can also give mic to people. I think they can talk as well. I don't know if that's the right. I mean, I've covered.
The question was, can a supplier segmentation be overwritten? So, or overridden. Sorry,
what was the question?
Can a supplier segmentation be overridden? Can you override it?
Yes, you can. You can override it manually if you want to. Yeah, and some people, like I said, may want the system to automatically segment this because it's a massive task for organizations to actually imagine you have 2,000 suppliers. Segmenting your 2,000 suppliers based on that criteria that you have as an organization could be a daunting task, yeah, every year. So iValua can actually help you automatically segment this for you. Based if you can define that criteria, and we have the data in the system to actually back it up, we can then do that automatically as well.
Okay. Yeah, you have answered the question, so yeah, thank you for that, Zishan. You got a thank you.
Okay, no problem. So I wanted to go through this new enhancements with you as well. So I've already talked about changing the calculation of the questionnaire scoring, and I've been asked this a couple of times before in the past, where iValua scoring mechanism is based on the weighted average, and some people have a different, criteria. Some people just want a very basic as, okay, this is 10%, this is 20%, and that's it. I don't want that to be based on the weighted average. iValua is coming up with an enhancement where you'll be able to actually, or at least together with the partners, we can help you put in that calculation in a SQL formula and come up with that, and that calculation can be used to actually do the questionnaire scoring, which will help you some of the clients who do want to customize it. This second one is actually very very useful one, because I know, Stuart, you have asked as in the past, when we were implementing this, is that we can't really initiate a questionnaire in the system. So you can't just create a questionnaire in the system and send it to anyone. It needs to be linked to a supplier. You can't initiate a questionnaire to do the PIF process, to be very precise for you, Stuart, because I know you have that process in place. So, in the past, you could only actually create that off the back of a supplier object. Now, what you'll be able to do is those of you who use intake process, you'll be able to create a questionnaire on an intake. So you could create a questionnaire as part of the intake process. You can send that to the users to actually fill that information, as opposed to us creating all these fields for you on the form. Yeah. At the moment, if let's say on a form you need to ask a question to the supplier, you would need to get us to actually create that field on the supplier record. Yeah. With this option, you wouldn't need to actually create those fields. You can just create a questionnaire. It could be a very small questionnaire, extra fields that you want to capture as part of the onboarding, or it could be extra fields that you want to capture as part of the contract, maybe negotiation. You can just create a questionnaire, and you all are familiar with how you create questionnaire. And the system does not restrict you to only send that questionnaire to link it to a supplier. It could be linked to a contract. It could be linked to a user even. You can maybe ask your users within the platform to answer a questionnaire. It doesn't need to link to a supplier object, which I think will be a very useful change. And you can use the questionnaire not just for supplier, for many other options out there. Now, let's have a look at what is on the offering in terms of how we can actually configure risk and performance. Those of you who are on the new licensing regime from iValua, you would have to buy a risk and performance center separately. So there's a separate module for that. Some of you who are on a old license scheme, you may already have it. If you have supplier risk and performance, you may not have it implemented, but you may have a license already. But feel free to reach out to Karen, and she'll be able to actually help you out whether you have a license or not. But nevertheless, you need a license, okay, to use those two modules. Now, we also have an extensive list of connectors. We worked with many, not just iValua, we worked with other products as well, as you know, and we have created those add-ons, as well as iValua have created some add-ons as well. Now, what's the benefit of having those add-ons or ready connector is that we wouldn't need to spend a lot of time actually creating a new integration, okay, because it's already there. So, for example, there is a connector for DNB, which is supported, 180 plus. As long as you have that connector, we will implement that for you. What we normally do is we show you what the connector does. If that is what you want, then it's a matter of installing that add-on, that connector. You're getting the license from iValua because it has a license implication, okay? And then we install it, we test it with you, and we deploy it in production, okay? We also have DNB 3 of DNB. You know how it works with DNB's data blocks. So for different data blocks, iValua have created add-ons. So you can see we have one for third-party risk insights. There's one for diversity and one for financial strength. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you can correlate with this if you're using it. And what it is, it's an add-on. You would need to buy in order to actually use any of these 3 DNB add-ons after the iValua connector. You need to have the iValua connector in order to use this add-on, basically. Okay. And once you have that, we can install it, we can implement it for you. We can also share details of what's included in this. And most people who are okay with this, there's not much implementation to be done. It's more testing and making sure that we deliver it all the way on to production for you to use it. We have also on DNB created InduD add-ons. Some of you who actually use that, we have created that. It has a license. Well, it's a subscription base, maybe, because it's our add-on. It's a TSM add-on, so it might be just on the subscription, which is effectively a license, basically. We also have a credit safe add-on, which is developed by TSM, and it is available. Credit safe is used to actually not only for risk check, it is also used for bank check as well. Sorry, the bank details check as well. So we can also do that using this. World check, there is a iValua add-on. Some people use that word check. There is Prewave, there's Integrity Next as well. We've also developed an add-on with Companies House. So you can actually, when you're doing the onboarding of a supplier in terms of risk assessment, you can actually go and check into Companies House for the UK suppliers to see whether they are what they are saying they are. Okay, and you can use that as a risk check. EcoVadis IQ Plus, EcoVadis sustainability rating. Experian is another one that we have come across, and there is an add-on for us on the add-on store. We can use that. Moody's we've come across, and for any construction related customers, we also have Construction Line, which is another risk assessment tool, a third-party tool which we can use to actually do risk assessment. Any of these, anyone in the audience used, maybe interested in, let us know. We can always come back to you on further details what we have. In terms of future webinars, I'm really open to suggestions, guys. The one that I've got lined up for the next one is the category management using AI research to actually help you come up with the category research. So iValua covers, using AI, it can actually cover research, bespoke research, as well as other industry category management research options like the Porter's 5 Forces. iValua can do that as well. So I'll cover that in the next session. Plus, program or project management module will cover that. And then after that, we have the employee expenses. But I'm open to other suggestions. If you think that maybe the next one we need to do something else, let me know in an email, and we will cover that. Okay, if we don't have any questions, you can always send us the questions afterward. If you have any questions, send us an email and we'll be happy to answer. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Zishan. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.